Today's show, Luka Doncic goes off for 73 points in an actual NBA game where there's footage of the game.
True.
Where there's footage of the game. So in my eyes, it's the number 2 scoring game of all time. We'll talk about that. How did he get there? What does it mean for the Mavericks? And more on today's Locked On.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
Mavericks, NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good, and the Mavericks have won the game.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team, your Luka Doncic every day. Thanks for being part of this show. Make it Locked On Mavs your first listen today. Well, the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day, leave a 5-star review, like the video, and comment anything below. Just say one thing about Luka, or maybe just say Luka in the comment section. Just over and over and over again. Oh my God. Joining me, as always, on the postgame prodigy. What you got for me, Slightly Biased, as we let it ride.
Luka Doncic, Luka.
Oh my God.
Luka Doncic, Luka Doncic, Luka Doncic, Luka Doncic, Luka Doncic, Luka Doncic. Ultimately,
from the team that traded him on draft night.
Yeah, true. It is rivalry week.
Rivalry week. He took it serious, and man, we'll talk about his game. Obviously, we'll talk about how he got there. We'll talk about some of the other role players too. How the Mavericks came out with a win this game. It was close. It was like many greatest scoring games in NBA history. It was close because he scored a bunch of points because they needed him to. They didn't just blow out the other team. So we'll talk about that. We'll get into it. But man, just an absolutely insane. It's obviously a Mavericks record. It is actually the fourth largest amount of points scored in an NBA game. 100 points by Wilt, obviously.
Like 81, you said, that we know of, that they told us.
Yeah, 100 points by Wilt where there's no film. 81 by Kobe. There is film on that one. I watched that one.
Yeah.
And then there's 3 guys, David Thompson, Wilt twice, and then now Luka with 73 points.
Wow. I mean, just incredible. And the way he got it too, where the second half, it's remarkable that he scored as many points as he did in that half with the way that they were guarding him and doubling him. And I thought DeJounte Murray, I mean, it's crazy to say someone played good defense in a game, someone scored 71 points. I thought DeJounte Murray played like some legit strong ball denial and stuff like that, but there was just nothing.
Well, it's because they didn't put him on until the middle of the fourth quarter when they decided hey, guess what? I guess we got to guard Luka at some point. We're just because at the beginning of the game they just put Saddiq Bey on him, who is not a good
Johnson.
Yeah, true. Or who is Saddiq Bey, who is not a good defender, is a famous Locked On NBA phrase to say Saddiq Bey. He's supposed to be 3-and-D, and he doesn't really hit the 3 that well, and he doesn't really play D. So what is he? That's what Cougar Locked On Pistons said one time. We always crack up about it. But they decided that, and they didn't go double team until like midway through the fourth quarter, like early fourth quarter, basically. And at that point, he already had about 65. Yeah. And it was just one of those games where he could not miss in certain instances where he needed it. Like he needed it. 25 of 33 from the field, 8 of 13 from 3. 8 threes is like not that many. Like it's a lot right now, but it's not like a record or anything. 15 of 16 from the free throw line. It's not like he did Joel Embiid and it hit like took 30 free throws or anything like that. It was just a clinic of Luka getting to the basket, scoring, hitting jumpers, scoring all over the place, being just a hyper efficient game to score 73 points.
Just absolute insanity, man. We talked about like teams throwing different defenses at Luka, and it feels like lately, especially, one of the popular ones is, all right, we're just going to trust our one-on-one guys, and we're not going to help off and let these shooters get hot or whatever. Like, we're going to force Luka to beat us. And man, when he's going to beat you. He's going to beat you. Like, you're just praying that he misses his threes. That's it. And you could tell he was locked in tonight because I thought maybe, and I don't want to excuse their games to the Suns or Celtics, but this team has historically, I felt like, been kind of rough when they get long periods of breaks, like long
the
rests.
Mavs,
yeah. I don't know what it is, but even Luka's misses tonight were strong, and that's kind of how you know somebody's like feeling it when the misses are a little bit strong instead of short. That's when you know someone's locked in. My God, he was locked in.
And it was one of those games where you just lost to the Suns, and the most embarrassing. I mean, it felt like we had a funeral the other day.
Yeah, dude, it was sad.
For the Mavs, we were just sad. And then Dana and I had a Mavs family meeting on the show yesterday where we were just like talking about, all right, let's lay it all out on the table. What are all the issues with this team? And coming into this Hawks game, you're traveling to Atlanta. Luka gets named an all-star starter. He goes to TNT. He's like, in front of the basketball world. And then they have to ask him about the fan getting ejected thing again and all that. It's just one of the, it was a low moment I felt like for the team, for the fans, obviously. And it's one of those games where you have to respond. I sent to the subtexters. I have a subtext line where you can text me. I send text stuff to everybody. I send to the subtexters before the game in my game preview. I said, I want to see how this team responds to the next couple of games. It's not just this one game, but I want to see how they respond to the next couple of games. And dang it, if Luka didn't just take that to like the nth degree, he just completely responded. He knew he needed to have a game like this. No Kyrie, no Maxey or Dwight, so their bigs are kind of limited there, which they are anyway. But and they just needed him to go off. And then you look at the Hawks starting lineup. Start Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, who has been an all defensive player, but hasn't been that great of a defender, like to that level at least. Saddiq Bey, who's not a good defender. Jalen Johnson, who can be, and then Clint Capella. Luka takes advantage of those, those types of centers all the time. And so you're like, man, they don't really have anybody to cover him or even like stick with him. And boy, was that true.
Yeah, no, he was feasting. I mean, I think Jalen Johnson's a good, solid player and a good, strong defender at times. But man, it was just the torture rack anytime he was on Luka. And it was some tough shots too. It wasn't like Jalen Johnson was doing a terrible job. Luka, again, when he's locked in, there's literally nobody who can stop him. He's going to make every tough shot. He's going to make those crazy and ones, those low dribble pickups where it's basically a floater from 2 feet inside the 3-point line. And those are going to go in every time. Like, it's just an unstoppable freight train. And, I will say this is why, you get frustrated is not the right word, but you want him to reach that point where it's just, he doesn't beat himself anymore. Because that's when he doesn't lose composure. Right. He doesn't have the games where he beats himself. Because then you see the games like these and it's like, this guy is an all-time great already, with all the potential in the world to do, so many insane things in this league, win individual awards and team, accolades like championships. It's just like, gee, 73. I honest to God, Luka's incredible. I never thought he'd reach that. Just his style of play, I didn't think would ever lead to a 70-point game, to be honest.
It's one of those where you think back to when he got drafted and you think back to how he went third overall. And that DeAndre Ayton and Marvin Bagley were taken ahead of him in a draft, right? Like, you just have to go back to all the negatives that were said about it. He's too slow. He won't be able to keep up with the athletes in the NBA. He hasn't done it against Marquette in February. Like, he just hasn't done those things. And you go, man, he just has proven so many things wrong about all that and about that approach. Because if you have that touch and if you have that feel, and a lot of basketball, like, I've seen like really big guys, like really fat guys play basketball and they're like, dang, they're better than me. And I'm like, I'd be more athletic than them at the time. And you're like, they just have a feel, and they just, as long as you have that, a feel and a touch and the IQ to know when and where to go off, when and where to get your shots, when and where to throw passes, like IQ can take you a long way. And it's taken Luka literally all the way to the top.
Yeah, Luka, and then like how other teams have built their teams over the time, like the Thunder, have changed how I feel about like the draft process. Give me these smart players. It feels like they pan out so much more often that like Jaime Jaquez, for example, like than these project athlete guys. Because Luka,
your Josh Jacksons, like from the past,
Because even you look at Luka, it still does not make a lot of sense. But you see him in person, he's massive human being. But he's not like an elite NBA level athlete. But he just gets to his spots whenever he wants. He's just so patient. His handle is so tight, and he just knows all the angles. He knows exactly where you're going to be at. He knows if you're going to lean, which direction you're leaning, if you're going to jump, if he has you off balance, he'll get you up in the air. And he knows from there, okay, I can draw contact. I can, do my low dribble pickup. If this guy's coming over to help in the gaps, I have that option right there. It's just, this is what we've been saying. Like, he's figured out defenses, it feels like, to a level, the likes of which you don't see very often in this sport.
Because at this point, he's seen them all. They've been thrown at him in various different ways. And It's one positive for him being the only star on the Mavericks for a while. Right?
Yeah.
Like they had to throw everything at him, and he didn't have this. It feels like sometimes Tatum has been on these teams for so long that there's been so many other like stars around him that you throw a different defense and he's just got to make jumpers. It's like, okay, if he makes his jumpers, then he's still gonna have a great, but if he doesn't, then what does he turn to after that? And for Luka, it's like, well, he can answer every single question, right?
Yeah.
He can answer every single one of them. And so coming up, let's talk about how he got there, how the Mavericks almost blew this game. Basically, we'll talk about that and talk about Luka and more coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. eBay Motors has partnered with the GOAT, Locked On Fantasy Basketball host Josh Lloyd, to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week. So if you play daily fantasy, you want to check out some of these picks because Josh has picked out some of this week's eBay's Guaranteed Fit Players of the Week, Fantasy Picks of the Week. He picks somebody at your lineup that he thinks could help you. Nick Richards is kind of an interesting guy. He's a guy that I'm looking at in trades possibly out there that could be Mavs backup center, somebody like that. But Josh Lloyd says this: Mark Williams doesn't appear to be coming back anytime soon, so Richards is going to have an extended run at center. He spelled center Centre because he's Australian, putting up solid fantasy numbers in the process. So check out Nick Richards for your fantasy team. And if you have a car, if you're driving in your car right now, you've got parts that you can replace yourself, and you can get those parts at eBay Motors. If you want to replace your wipers or your headlights or your roof rack or bumpers or anything like that, you can go check it out. See what they have at eBay Motors. They have 122 million different parts to choose from, and with that eBay's Guaranteed Fit, it's going to fit your car the first time, guaranteed. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Luka Doncic, Luka Doncic, Luka Doncic, Luka Doncic, Luka Doncic, Sole Luka Doncic.
Oh, it's Luka Doncic day. Luka scores 73 points against the Atlanta Hawks. The Mavs do get the win, 148 to 140. When's the last time the Mavs scored 140 points?
They've done it this season.
This season?
Yeah, they almost scored 150 in a game.
Oh my God! The scoring is just been on another level, and sometimes it's defenses are not as good, and sometimes it's just guys are just hitting tough shots, and the offense is just taking another level this season.
Yeah,
but Luka Doncic scores 73, and there was a moment you mentioned that Luka takes himself out of games sometimes. There was a moment in the first quarter where I was watching this because like I said earlier, I really wanted to see how this team responded, because when the fouls don't start not going their way, when the threes stop falling for them, this team hangs its head, and then they don't play defense. They don't get back in transition. And it was, so at the 6.5 minute mark, Lively got his second foul. I was watching that. They went small after that. And at the 5 minute mark, Luka drives in, gets a bucket, doesn't get a foul call. He's slow to get back. The Mavs defense is a mess. The Hawks score really quickly. And then it's 22 to 16. The Hawks seem like they're coming back. Luka subs out at the end of the first quarter. The Mavs don't score at all. The Hawks go on an 8-0 run at the end. They don't score with Luka not on the court like at all to end the quarter. And then the Mavs are down at the end of the first quarter. It just felt like, oh man, this could really fall apart for them quickly here.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. I felt good about this game from really like opening tip, even when it did look like the Hawks were making a bit of they did. I mean, the Hawks had a lead going into the second quarter.
Yeah.
Mainly because of, like you said, it looked like it could have gone wrong, but I could just tell, you can almost just tell immediately. Like it's weird how that works, where if this is going to be a game where the team is kind of out of it and small things can take them out of the game entirely. It didn't feel like that immediately. Like I reached that point with the Cowboys a long time ago where I can tell the first snap of the game, I'm like, oh, they're losing this one, guys. There's no point in watching the rest.
It's like that Super Bowl where the snap goes over Peyton Manning's head when he was on the Broncos. You're like, oh, they're not going to win this game. Like,
yeah.
That's it.
That's how this team feels at times. But I thought tonight, they did give up 143 points, which is just obscene. But it can't be a coincidence. Looking through all these high-scoring NBA games, it is crazy. All of them are super close. All of them are very high-scoring. It's just the other team is just put under so much pressure to keep up and score points. And NBA offenses are so good that, they're capable of doing it. And the Hawks were getting out and running, and because they had to answer every single thing that Luka gave to them. And they did a good job to their credit, but the Mavericks did pull it out.
And you got to give the Hawks credit too. 15 of 34 from three.
They were red hot.
That's 44%. 26 of 30 from the free throw line for the Hawks. So, they matched the Mavericks basically at the free throw line as well. And so they were hitting their shots, and they're a really good offensive team, but they're not a good defensive team, and neither are the Mavericks. And so it was just the fight of the offense. They were also 53% from all mid-range shots. The Hawks were too.
Yeah, so and they were 54% in transition off live ball rebounds. Like they were just getting out and going. So another like poor transition defense game for the Mavericks, if we're just being brutally honest and being tough on them a little bit. But
only 16 fast break points, so they didn't. They outscored them in fast break.
The Mavs outscored them at the rim, outscored them in the paint. So they did some things well, but Luka Doncic just scored 73 points. I don't know. That's what this game boils down to.
It basically did. At the rim is the one where I wanted to point out. Hawks only shot 62% at the rim. That's bad at the rim. Mavs shot 72% at the rim. Hawks were 18 of 29 from the field at the rim. And this is Derrick Lively. This is the effect of Derrick Lively. He had 4 blocks in this game. He had a couple other where he altered the shot and just played really good vertical defense. He only finished with what? He finished with 4 fouls. A couple of them were 5 fouls. A couple of them were against Trae Young, where he just got the foul call. Like if they had to give an explanation, it would have been he's a large man in the vicinity of a small man. That would have been the foul. But Derrick Lively was just such a big impact in this game.
Yeah. Derrick Lively was tremendous. He, like you said, there was, I guess I didn't even realize he got to, how many did you say? 4 blocks?
4 blocks.
But he altered so many other shots, and he's just gotten really good at contesting vertically. And some of those, like that was just Trae Young being Trae Young, like a master at his craft,
for sure,
at, getting defenders off balance and then taking advantage. And that's a rookie, 19-year-old. So it's easy pickings for Trae. But he was really good in this game. He was the Mavs' second best player. Maybe Josh Green could have a case for being the second best player tonight.
You know what's wild about the Lively thing too is that he outplayed Clint Capella.
Yeah, well, that's not hard.
But think about all the talk we had over the summer of like, should they trade for Clint Capella? Should they trade the 10th pick for Clint Capella? Right? Like we were talking about that. Like imagine if the Mavs did that and Clint Capella is the player that he has been this season. It would have been a disaster. And so good move for the Mavericks to not do that, to not give up Josh Green for Clint Capella or Hardy. Well, maybe they could have given Hardy, but not the pick and one of those guys. Like it was just a better move.
We got like 10 days till the trade deadline.
Well, they didn't give up the 10th pick. They're not going to give up Lively for him, right? So they won in that respect. And so it's just interesting to see him outplay him straight up like that.
It's interesting what they would look like, because I think like the most common mock trade I saw was the 10th pick and Hardaway for the 15th pick in Capella.
Yeah, but that's not what the Hawks wanted. Remember that like the report was that the Hawks were asking for Josh Green and Josh Green or Hardy and the 10th pick. It's like,
that's laughable.
Well, that's why they didn't do it.
Yeah.
The Mavs also took their first free throw in the game at 3:46 in the second quarter. This is happening again. Why are the Mavericks not getting free throws?
Because they're shooting a lot of threes.
They're shooting 35 in this one.
They're shooting a lot of threes, and
35 is like 6 threes under their average.
Shooting a lot of threes, and like when they get to the rim, very rarely, unless it's Luka, very rarely do they like play through contact.
Right.
A lot of the other guys are cutting, and they're getting looks off of Luka that are usually open. But it is kind of wild to only get one free throw at that point. I didn't think the officiating was egregious.
No,
they really only shot only 35 threes.
Yeah, if it was egregious, they were giving the Mavs some stuff. I would say with that one, you kind of run with Luka. But I think the reason why they're not getting free throws is Luka's shot 16, so that's a lot. And then you've got Josh Green, who is not one of those guys that drives into contact and tries to create that. And then Hardy and Exum have kind of been playing a little scared lately. Exum coming back from injury. Hardy's minutes have been here or there. So it's not like they're driving into players or driving into contact really confidently either. And then no Kyrie. He doesn't get a ton of free throws anyway. But and then Hardaway's game is not that either. Like they just don't have that in their arsenal with anybody else.
Yeah, even Exum when he was healthy, like 1.5 free throws a game. He kind of has that finesse touch around the rim where he's got like the hook shots and stuff that he goes to rather than being like an explosive finisher. So yeah, outside of Luka, they especially without, I mean, like you said though, Kyrie doesn't play through contact really either. His game is much more predicated on finesse as well.
Kyrie just matrix through all the contact at the rim basically. It's insane. It's insane to watch.
He probably deserves a little bit more free throws if I had to guess.
For sure. There's another moment in the end of the second quarter that I was paying attention to. Luka had he had 73 in the game. He had 37 points with 1:42 left. And then he got that deflection against DeJounte Murray and dove on the ball and grabbed the ball and tried to save it. And then he was smacking the ground. Like that to me is like hold on one second. That's the give a like that they just desperately need on this team, especially after a loss like they had against the Suns and then the loss against the Celtics too. And then they've had a couple of losses in a row here. They just really need somebody to come out and just be the emotional leader. And like Luka can be that.
Yeah. And I'm sure you can attest to this. I've heard from people in the know. Luka hears things.
Sure.
Luka hears stuff that gets said about him. So I'm sure he came out tonight.
He heard what that Suns fan said, apparently.
Yeah, but I'm talking like social media. He might be a little bit more plugged in than people would like to think.
Sure.
So I think he heard some of the talk and wanted to come out. But that just proves our point, where it is the team is going to go how you're the best player goes. And when Luka's active and playing, I mean, the team themselves has said it. I'll always remember that quote from Josh Green. I don't remember when it was, some point last year or something, where he said after the game, yeah, when Luka plays defense, it's awesome. And we're like, oh my God, Luka's playing defense. Let's
100%.
go. Let's rally behind that. So yeah, I love the energy. Like above all else, the 73 points is incredible. But yeah, Luka was locked in, like trying on defense, and he got beat a few times by Trey. That's gonna happen.
You just said the 73 points is incredible, but
yeah, the 73 points is cool and all, but I love that he dove for that loose ball. Like that showed more that was meant more to me than the 73.
Listen, we're not gonna follow the brand of the Locked On Daily podcast where we talk about the minutia of everything without talking about somebody diving on a loose ball when they had a 73-point game. It's just what we do here. It's just what we do here. We talk about every angle.
That's
Coming
how you
up.
Zag right there. That was the best part of the game.
Coming
could
up.
have had 0.
Let's talk about how Luka got there, what it means for Luka and his career, and then let's talk about some of the other players that made contributions or didn't make contributions in this coming up. Today's episode brought to you by Grammarly. Grammarly is something that I use every single day. It's a spell check on your phone. It's like the much better version of spell check. It is an incredible tool that you can use. You can get it as a web browser. You can get it as an app as well, where you can just copy and paste. If you have a paper that you're writing, you're in college, you're in high school, you just copy, or you're getting your degree or whatever, you just copy and paste it right in there. It'll help you with all that. I used it all through college. I use it every single day, writing emails, because I have to write professional emails. And so I want to make sure that I'm using the right punctuation and all that, and the right words and the right word choice and all that. So make sure you download Grammarly. Go to grammarly.com/podcast, grammarly.com/podcast. You can download it for free, for sure, if you need to draft an important email and don't know where to start. Grammarly also has suggestions to jumpstart your writing. Remember the Clippy thing? Remember, like in Microsoft Word, that was a little Clippy on the top right? It's just like Clippy, except for it's helpful. So grammarly.com/podcast. Check it out today.
Luka Doncic, Luka Doncic, Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic, Luka Doncic.
I'm letting it play all the way through.
I was about to say, that's long.
I'm letting it play all the way through. It's just one of those days. 73 points for Luka. Comes down to the end, and he just kept figuring out ways. Even when they sent the double, even when they had DeJounte Murray face guarding him, he still found ways to get to the rim. What do you think this game and this point total means for Luka in his career?
I think this game perfectly encapsulates him as a player for a couple different reasons. Again, an unstoppable freight train when he's going. I think he doesn't lead the league in scoring. I mean, what Embiid's doing is insane. But I think he's the best bucket getter.
But ethical scoring.
Ethical scoring, Luka does lead the league in ethical scoring. But I think he's the best bucket getter in the NBA. And I feel like I could say that not being slightly biased. Like I feel like if I just had to choose a player to get a basket, that was professional right there.
That was really good.
Yeah, that was professional right there. If I just had to pick one player, I need points. Who do I feel most comfortable with? Luka would be my answer. But then there are plays, subtle plays, like fourth quarter. The Hawks are sending hard doubles, and this game is in the balance because the Hawks are scoring at will as well. And Luka steps back, and it feels like he has a decent enough look where he's so hot and he's scoring so many points that you're like, okay, if he shoots that and misses, we're all okay with it. Nobody's going to get mad at him. But he waits just a split second for the defender guarding Exum to commit, and then he kicks it. Exum has a wide open three at the top of the key, and Exum knocks it down. It's a huge shot in the game. It's shots like that. Like that was with a minute 16 left, if that's the shot I'm thinking of. It was a 3-point game. Exum hits that. It's a 6-point game. The game's over. The Mavs, that was pretty much the dagger right there. But it's plays like that where Luka could have easily shot that shot. And even if he missed it, I think we're all, nobody's yelling at him. Nobody's complaining, but it's the smart basketball play to make that pass.
He had the one a minute earlier too, where he was in the fast break and he had 3 guys on him and he could have just like thrown his arms up wildly and tried for a foul, but Josh Green was right there. He passed it to him and then Josh Green missed the layup, just blew the layup completely. And then the Hawks hit a shot and it was a 4-point game at that point. And then the play that you just mentioned, absolutely, where Lively got an offensive rebound on that one that was huge too. So another way that he impacted the game. Man, just an amazing game for Luka. It puts him on the level of legitimate, one of the best stars we've seen, or one of the best starts to a career we've ever seen in the NBA.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like we've never seen somebody have this many all NBA first teams at the beginning of their career. We haven't seen somebody with 4 all-star starts in their first like 6 years, basically. It's insane to see what he's doing. And to have a game like this, it's very validating. And it's kind of like the league there's more players getting this. Like Donovan Mitchell has a 70-point game. Booker has a 70-point game.
Yeah.
Embiid just got one. Man, we're hitting this era right now where guys can hit these individual player scoring marks.
Well, the talent in the league is just on another level, like the skill level. There's just not a lot. Everyone says the defense isn't good. And they've definitely legislated some defense out of the game for sure. But the skill, I mean, these guys are just hitting shots. That's just insanity.
And there's no defensive specialists anymore, right?
Yeah. But I mean, what are you supposed to do? Like Embiid's case, this guy is a 7-foot guy who's shooting mid ranges at like a 65% clip. What are you supposed to do with that? There's not a thing you can do. Like Luka just does whatever. He's so big and like so patient and so crafty that he gets to whatever spot he wants.
Back in my day, we had a Michael Kidd-Gilchrist that we could just throw at him, who was an elite defender.
Frank Ntilikina would have thrived in 1993.
Oh, dang. I wish I had I don't thought people forget about Frank.
People forget about Frank.
Oh,
but hopefully this helps Luka that, I see a lot of people mad that the national media has like a certain slant. Listen, when you're a superstar, the national media is going to have some negative things to say about you. That is just how it goes. You're going to have to live with that. Every player deals with it.
Jokic doesn't care about the NBA. Embiid is not an ethical scorer. We just joked about that. Like,
well, Jokic got grilled before he won. Like that. Like he got blasted all the time.
Everybody's got that.
Yeah, and I do agree though that it does feel like the national media has reached a point with Luka where it's like, another 40-point triple-double. Well, yeah, he's done that however many times in his career now. Like, Shea just did this for the first time in his career. Like that's kind of cooler to me. This one is like hard because I thought after the Christmas Day game there would be like a level of discussion about him that would really reach a certain level, and it didn't really feel like that because the Suns were melting down, and that was more of the topic of conversation because we just automatically go towards the negative things, unfortunately, when it comes to talking about sports more often than not. But this one is pretty hard to ignore.
It is. It's hard to ignore. And this is not one of those wins that fixes everything for the Mavericks. But it's one of those where Luka has taken a step up as a leader this season, and he has. And he responded in a massive way after they were really at one of their lowest moments. And I think that's huge for this. Agreed.
That this isn't like a benchmark game for the Mavericks. We're like, all right, just do that every night, guys.
Yeah, right. Well, I hope they don't do it every night because it was Tim Hardaway Jr.'s worst game of the season to me.
Oh, man. He hit a big 3, but, man, that turnover at the end and some of the decision-making and
his defense was so bad the whole game.
I don't want to spoil anything because I'm dropping a video about the trade deadline, but I've cooked up something that I like.
Where you trade Tim?
I cooked up 2 trades that make a lot of sense to me. Do you want to hear?
I do want to hear them, but
they feel realistic. Like they weren't like dream trades, but they were like realistic sounding trades.
Okay, I'm ready.
Kyle Anderson, 3-team trade. The Timberwolves get Monte Morris from the Wizards or from the Pistons.
Yeah.
Send Kyle Anderson to the Mavericks. Rashawn Holmes to the Pistons. The Pistons get 3 second-round picks, 2 from the Timberwolves, 1 from the Mavs.
So it's for the Mavericks. It's Tim and 2 seconds.
It's Rashawn and a second.
Oh, Rashawn Holmes in 2 seconds for
1
Kyle
second.
Anderson. 1 second.
The Timberwolves are sending 2 seconds.
Oh, nice.
The Mavs getting Kyle Anderson. And the other one was the Mavs take a swing at Wiggins, and it was Tim and whatever minimum contract you want to send.
Yeah.
I did Seth because it's just like Mavericks trading Seth Curry.
Mavs haven't traded
sense. Like it makes sense
for a player that makes more sense than maybe worse in the long run.
And then get 2 seconds for Wiggins. So Wiggins and 2 seconds.
We also saw in this game, I like those trades. Those are good.
They feel realistic is the thing. I don't.
We
think I've
also
leveled.
saw Derrick Jones Jr. go down with a wrist sprain injury.
yeah.
Oh my God. He landed on his wrist. It looked bad. He left. He didn't come back after halftime. That's one that's kind of tough for the Mavericks to replace. But they've got Omax. You've got AJ Lawson. Like, it feels like that's where they go with him. But man, that's a tough one to replace for if he's going to be out for an extended period of time. And this team just continues to just not catch any breaks when it comes to injuries.
So do they just default to sprain if they don't really know what it is yet? Because I'd be shocked if that's all it was. It looked really bad.
Well, like, it's a sprain if it's only like slightly. Like Dr. Brian Suterer came on the show and explained to me the difference between it, so I'm going to try to relay that. The sprain is like if the ligament's torn like a little bit. It's a complete or it's a strain if it's that. It's a complete sprain if it's I don't remember, but that's like the one that you can tell before you do an MRI. Basically, is the one where that's where they default to.
Well, I'm just happy he didn't break it or something because it
looked like
bad.
he did. I immediately I was sitting on my couch by myself. He falls down. He starts holding his wrist, and I go, he broke his wrist. He broke his wrist.
That's what I thought happened too.
He broke his wrist. And
so sprain is like a best case scenario, I guess.
It was good to see Dante back though, and playing a little bit more aggressive in this one, and just dribbling the ball. They just needed one more ball handler.
Played some good defense too.
He did.
Played some good defense. Like Trey hit some shots down the stretch, but it wasn't Trey's best game, and he, I don't know, I was about to make a joke. He has a concussion apparently, so
he did. He was out for this past week. He had 30 and 11 in this game. It was still a great game. Grant Williams, I thought
30. He had 30 and 11. Okay.
Yeah,
Trey, I'm sorry.
It didn't seem like it, but he was scoring in the second half. Grant Williams, I thought, had kind of a bounce back game. He hit a 3, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, like some solid play, and that's all we were asking of him, right? Like he didn't have to be this insane like role player, but just like play a solid game, and boom, he did.
9, 5, and 4. We'll gladly take that.
That's it. We'll take that. We'll take that absolutely. All right, there you go. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll have the Kings game. I'll be there in the arena. We're a 5-day a week and every post-game Dallas Mavericks podcast. So subscribe to the show if you're not. On our way to 100,000. Not close, but we're on our way to 100,000 subs. Guys, thanks for listening to Locked On Mavs.
I need a recovery beer.
Peace out. Boom.